Alright, what's going on, you guys? Nick here with Nick Strength and Power. We've got a couple interesting bodybuilding stories for you guys today. The first story is going to be about Shawn Rhoden. Now, there haven't been any recent updates in Shawn Rhoden's actual case, but we do have an update on whether or not Shawn will be competing at the Arnold Classic. Now, the official Arnold Classic competitor list came out and did not have Shawn's name on it, so that was a pretty strong indicator that we weren't going to see Shawn there. We also do know that the promoter said Shawn would only be invited if his case was resolved by then, and I guess there was still the possibility that it could be resolved before the Arnold Classic. However, recently in an Instagram post, Shawn was asked by a subscriber, Courage of Achilles, "Hey champ, are you competing in the Arnold Classic?" And Flexitron Shawn Rhoden went ahead and replied saying, "No, I will not be." So there you have it. Official confirmation from Shawn Rhoden. He will not be doing the Arnold Classic. I was thinking there might be a possibility of like a late last-minute entry if he continues prepping, throughout the next 2 months, maybe if the case is resolved by then. But apparently Shawn is not planning on or prepping for the 2019 Arnold Classic. So at this point, I guess there's no chance we're going to see him on that stage, even if his case is resolved. Now, next up in the news, this is Arnold Classic news, but not Arnold Classic Ohio news. This is Arnold Classic Australia news. So just within the past 24 hours, we were treated to the full competitor list for the 2020 Arnold Classic Australia, which is always a very impressive show. It's always got a very stacked lineup. Roelly Winkler, William Bonac, these are guys that have done very well there and made names for themselves at that show. And the Arnold Australia is held just shortly after the Arnold Classic Ohio. So most of the guys from the Arnold Ohio go over to the Arnold Australia, still in pretty good shape. So let me read you guys this lineup, and then I'll tell you guys some things that I like about it. Number 1, Blessing Awodabu, Big Rami, Mamdoa Elsbaye, Dexter Jackson, Steve Kuklo, of course, Josh Lenardowitz, Victor Martinez, Patrick Mooore, Jake Nikopoulos, Sergio Oliva, Fred Smalls, Josh Wade, and Akeem Williams. Well, the first thing that I like about this lineup is the first thing on this list. Blessing Awodabu, the Boogeyman. This is going to be his pro debut, which is something I'm actually pretty excited to see, because Blessing has been able to make a name for himself on social media over the past couple of years without being an IFBB pro bodybuilder. Now, he did turn pro relatively recently, but this will be his pro debut. And you couldn't really ask for a better pro debut. Well, I guess you could, because he wanted to be in the Arnold Classic Ohio. That's what he told me when I saw him in Boca. And I guess that was his plan, was to be at the Arnold Classic Ohio. But I guess things didn't go according to plan, and now he's in the Arnold Classic Australia. But I don't think you could ask for a better pro debut, and here's why I say that. He's in, essentially, an Olympia caliber lineup. Now, I think it's unfortunate that you don't see William Bonac on this list, because I think he's going to be one of the top guys at the Arnold Ohio, and he's not going to be in Australia. And you're also not seeing guys like Roelly, Cedric, or Luke. So there are some relatively big names absent from this Arnold Classic Australia, but it's still a very stacked lineup, an Olympia caliber lineup. And I think it's going to be a good place for Blessing to make his debut, because he does have a pretty impressive physique. I think there's nothing better than you could ask for a pro debut than to be put in a lineup of a lot of legendary bodybuilders. So we're really going to be able to see how Blessing stacks up against an Olympia caliber lineup. I mean, you've got Big Rami and Dexter Jackson in this lineup. Victor Martinez, a former Olympia runner-up, a former Arnold Classic champion. Dexter Jackson obviously is a former Mr. Olympia winner. Big Rami, a former Mr. Olympia runner-up. So it's kind of a no-lose situation. This is a win-win for Blessing no matter how he places, because if Blessing does well here, he does very well, because this is a very good lineup. If Blessing does mediocre here, it's okay, because that's still pretty good for a pro debut in a lineup like this. And even if Blessing does bad, he can say, well, this was a legendary lineup. You got a Mr. Olympia, 2 Mr. Olympia runner-ups in this lineup. That's a pretty good excuse for not placing well in your pro debut. But like I said, if he does well here, he's going to really make a bold statement against some really good guys. And the thing that I'm probably most excited for is hopefully we'll see a call-out of the Boogeyman and Big Rami. That will definitely be one for social media, and I'm sure that will be an interesting news video if we ever get that posed down. All right, now moving on to the next story. The next story is going to be a strength story, or maybe it's a power story. I'll let you guys decide, but the next story is about my boy, Eddie Hall. There is certainly no denying that Eddie Hall is one of the strongest men to ever live, having won the 2017 World's Strongest Man competition. You guys also might remember he deadlifted a world record of 500 kilograms, which is about 1,100 pounds. And now, Eddie's latest feat of strength is going viral, and that is an incline dumbbell press of 220 kilograms total, or 484 pounds. That's not each arm. That's the total weight of the dumbbells. But that is 242-pound dumbbells in each hand, or 110 kilograms in each hand. Now, I don't recall exactly what the record was before this, but I remember the guy doing the video, and I think it was in the low 200s, 220 or 230, somewhere around there was the record prior to this. But I think 242 is significantly higher than what the previous record was. I'm pretty sure it was low 200s in each arm. So shout out to Eddie Hall, still doing incredible things, even though he's been, I guess, unofficially retired from strongman competition for the past couple of years. Now, next up, back to bodybuilding news and also pertaining to the 2020 Arnold Classic. Patrick Mooore, we were just talking about him in the last news video, has posted another prep update for the 2020 Arnold Classic, another front double bicep pose. But what caught my attention about this post was a comment in the comment section below by Hunter Labrada, who I believe is his training partner. And I thought it was a noteworthy observation here. So Hunter makes the comment, everyone always brags about having legs the size of their waist. You're getting close to having arms the size of your waist. And I thought that was a pretty interesting and funny comment, because we do always talk about how small Patrick's waist is, how good his V-taper here is, and how good his V-taper was at the Olympia, and that's something you don't typically see in the men's open class on the Olympia stage. And looking at this picture, that's just a statement that goes to show how small his waist really is and how good he really is, because his arms really are around the size of his waist if you look at it. And that really speaks to both how big his arms are and how small his waist is, which I think is a proportion that we want to see in bodybuilding, especially in men's open bodybuilding, not just classic physique. I don't even think you see something like this in classic, to be honest with you guys. Because of those weight restrictions, I don't think you see guys with arms as big as their waist in classic. I'm telling you guys, man, and I'm sticking by it, I think Patrick is going to be one of the biggest surprises of the Arnold Classic 2020. Now, one other thing that I wanted to address about the 2020 Arnold in Ohio, I've seen some rumors floating around the internet that Roelly Winkler is potentially out of the 2020 Arnold Classic. Now, at the time that I'm making this video, this is unconfirmed. I have heard from nobody that Roelly is going to be out of the 2020 Arnold in Ohio, but I do notice in the lineup for the Arnold Classic Australia, Roelly Winkler is noticeably absent from that lineup, and this is a show that Roelly typically does, and he does very well when he does it. So I am not going to put this Roelly thing in the title of this video or in the thumbnail of this video or anything like that, but I did want to give you guys the report, I guess, that there is this rumor out there that Roelly might not be at the Arnold, but right now, again, it's just a rumor, completely unconfirmed. But Roelly is one of the biggest names in that lineup, so if Roelly was absent from the 2020 Arnold Classic, it would significantly impact that field of bodybuilders. Now, keep in mind here, if this rumor is true, it is important to keep in mind that Roelly is already qualified for the 2020 Mr. Olympia, so theoretically, Roelly doesn't even have to compete. He doesn't have to do any shows between now and the 2020 Mr. Olympia. So, in theory, if he wanted to focus exclusively on his Olympia prep to do better at the Olympia, that could be what Roelly is doing, because he doesn't have to qualify. So there's no need for him to do any of these shows. So I guess it is a possibility, but I'm just going to report it as a rumor right now. And finally in the news, you guys might remember Ronnie Coleman had some pretty harsh words for the top bodybuilders of today's era at the Olympia, saying today's top 6 would not place top 6 back in the 90s, back in Ronnie Coleman's era, what some consider to be the golden era of bodybuilding. Ronnie Coleman was not feeling the 2019 Mr. Olympia lineup in a recent interview on the Valuetainment YouTube channel. Well, a certain runner-up at the Olympia had something to say about that, and also a former Arnold Classic champion, William Bonac, had some choice words for the 8-time Mr. Olympia, Ronnie Coleman. So without further ado, let me roll the video of William Bonac clapping back, in a sense, at Ronnie Coleman's statements about modern bodybuilding.
Think about what Ronnie said, that you can't even make top 6 in their area. Yeah, he didn't say that about me, you know. So, well, I still don't think that, you know, he could say that, he should say that, you know. So, and especially not from that kind of man with a status like Ronnie. You know, he's a goat and he did a great job. And of course, you know, it's a free mind of speech, you know, but sometimes you got to be careful with the words that you bring out, because it's like I said, it's a different area. You understand? Like Brendan, if Brendan was in his area, Brendan would have done maybe the same thing like they did. And Brendan could have come even better. Brendan could have even won the Olympia 9 times, you know, instead of 8 times. You understand? So it's a different area. If Ronnie came in our area, you know, he would step up to our game. You know, if the guys, like he said, don't train hard enough, he wouldn't train hard enough. Why would he? Because nobody's training hard enough. So I'm like, it's a different area, you know. So, but it's his opinion, you know, and I don't agree with it. Not because I'm in this area, you know. I love back the old school. I love it, you know. And if you want to go that way, you know, look at all those guys. They say, people say, yeah, look at the standard guts and blah blah blah. But really, go back in time. You understand? I see a lot of those guys with a big belly, you know. So yeah, but it's how it is, man. People will always say their area was the best. They will always say that, of course, you know, they want to live as legends, you know, so they will always say that, you know, like a true champion wouldn't put a feather up in his ass. You understand? He will let people put a feather up in his ass. So he will let people talk about him, how great he is. You know, he won't say how great he is. You understand? So, like a liar won't say, hey, I'm a liar. You understand? Fuck that. Of course, the lengthy physique guys, you know, they were like more classical physiques, you know, and this stage of area, you know, and this stage of area is different, you know, so I really can't say that, man.
And that will do it for today's video, guys. Please give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Smash that like button. And as always, Nick Strength and Power.